Hi, you guys, and welcome to today's episode of The Daily Grind. In today's episode, I want to talk you through some of the alterations I do to get a perfect fit on a pattern, or as close to perfect as possible. This Vogue pattern is currently draped on my duct tape double. Now, I did this duct tape double about 2007, 2008, so it is, almost about 15 years old, maybe a little bit older than that. But usually when you do a duct tape double, you're supposed to do a new one every 10 years. And I haven't. The reason why is because our body changes. Our body shifts. Sometimes what's in the back goes to the front and things change. That's just the way it is. All right, so this is a fairly accurate replica of my body. It doesn't include the nuances. For example, I do have body asymmetry going on, but I like to address some of those issues in fabric rather than on the pattern. But I want to walk you through the common alterations that I do because everybody has to do them. You are unique and your figure is unique. And I say that all the time, and it is. So never assume when you take a pattern out of the envelope that you are going to get a perfect fit. That is a template and you are the designer. So you will design that to fit your body. So let's get going and I'll show you what alterations I do. You may have to do some of these yourself. You may have to do different alterations, but almost everybody has to do them. The first thing I want to talk about is the back, because whenever you fit a pattern, you should be doing and analyzing the back fit first. And that's always what I do. So if you look on this back of my pattern here, I'm going to highlight some of the changes that I have done to the pattern. First thing I always do is I always analyze the shoulder slope. And I've mentioned that before. Shoulder slope is very important. Everything hangs from the shoulder, so I like to get that shoulder slope right. And I know that's right based upon previous patterns that I've worked on. And also, I do have that template. Now, it sticks up a little bit from the shoulder because I'm working with tape. I like to reinforce with tape right here so the tissue doesn't tear, and that's common. But when it's on the body, I know this is sitting relatively flat to my shoulder. Now, the upper back, I always do a broad back alterations. I know I have to do it in a big 4 pattern. So I did a half-inch alteration here, and usually I do it all the way down, but it was a little tricky with that princess seam. So I did it in the upper back, and then I split this piece down here into the lower back and just pushed everything out a ½ inch. On the back right here, my center back seam was not in alignment and I was getting a lot of extra fabric. And you know when you get extra fabric because that seam will not lay straight on your back. So what I did was I took a 5/8 of an inch tuck from here all the way over to the side seam. I had to transfer it to the side panel here. And I just, with the tuck, I smooshed out that extra fabric. I did do a ½ inch width adjustment on the lower skirt portion of this pattern. And I did a narrow shoulder alteration because my shoulders are more narrow than the pattern. If I turn this around, you're going to see a bust dart right here. Well, why did I do a bust dart? Okay, so right here, if you look at the front, when I tried this on, this is your center front right here. And that center front should be in the middle of your boobs right there. It should be right at the center plumb line of your body. This center front line was way over here. I had to do a very wide full bust adjustment to get that center front to shift over. Also, when I did that, whenever you do a full bust adjustment, it creates a dart here at the side seam. Now this side seam, you might think it's a little bit tricky because we have princess seams here, but it's really not hard at all. And I'm not going to explain that adjustment in this video. I just want to tell you that I did that adjustment. So it created a dart. Now, I don't like darts that angle horizontally. I just don't think they're attractive on my figure. So after it created a dart from doing the full bust adjustment, I re-angled the dart and then also positioned that dart so it was pointing right to the fullest part of my bust. And that's something that has to be done so that your dart doesn't get really weird on you. You need that dart to be pointing to the fullest part of your bust. Now, when I turn this back over here on the shoulder, I did do a narrow shoulder alteration. And then I found on the front that I always look for my lines to be either vertical or horizontal. And what I found was this line right down here was bowing downward. So I did a tuck in the pattern. And I did a tuck in 2 places to bring this up so this line was not going down like this. The center front line should be going down straight. and that's really important. Now, those are pretty much the gist of the alterations I've done. You'll notice in here, you know, when I say these lines should be horizontal, right in here, this tends to collapse in. That is not uncommon for me because I have what I call, or what people call, a hollow chest. Full bust here, but then I'm very small in this area. And many times, if you don't interface your jacket, you will get a collapsing of the fabric in this area right here. So what I do, and when I try this on, I'm not getting the extent of the collapse that you're seeing on my dress form. It's more like this. But because that could collapse, I will interface the whole front piece of this jacket to underline it. But what I would also do is put extra interfacing pieces just in this area only to give it more structure and support so it doesn't collapse in the finished product on my body. This is just a start of the many alterations that I do. Now, anything you see here, just because I do alterations here does not mean that I won't have to tweak those alterations in fabric. Every fabric is different, and it may just lay a little bit differently on the body, and every fabric performs a little bit differently. So just because I have all of these alterations done does not mean that I won't have to tweak those alterations on the body. And you'll see right here, I like to add a very generous side seam allowance. And what I will do is in fabric, I will go back and tweak these princess seams all around my body to really mold to the exact fit that I want. It takes time, but it is very worth it. And then oftentimes what I do is if there's a lining piece, often I won't use that lining piece. I will just use the same piece that I altered and adjust that piece to create a new lining piece, because the lining piece is a little bit different than the actual pattern itself. But if you know how to do that, you can go ahead and do that, or you can transfer the same alterations that you did on your pattern pieces to your lining pieces, whatever way is easiest for you. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned from it. And what I wanted to be your takeaway was that everybody needs to do alterations. And just because you may be thin, you may be average, does not mean that you don't have to do them. Everybody, almost everybody, has to do alterations to get that perfect fit. And it is well worth the time. All right, you guys, thanks for watching, and join me in the next episode of The Daily Grind.